Hello and good afternoon again, everyone. We are back for our usual faith and healing presentation. We absolutely look forward to our Thursdays where we are able to speak to you on matters that is concerning your health and all the great and fun, exciting, and delicious ways whereby you can take better care of yourself, especially in this trying season of life. So, this is where we do not only teach you how to care for yourself physically, but how to care for yourself spiritually. And as we remind you on every broadcast, this is not an opportunity for us to take over your medical situation, okay? This is not intended to diagnose, to treat, or to cure any disease. If you are not well, please consult a medical care professional. Again, this presentation is not designed to diagnose, treat, or cure any disease. If you are not well, please speak with a medical care professional. We have great respect and regard for those in the medical field because I believe they have been gifted with great knowledge to be able to help us to know what is going on the inside of us. And then once we have that information, we are able to find out how to use God's foods, okay? And then we can begin the journey of taking care of our body. So today we are very excited about the topic. We are looking at today the brain. So we are talking about brain essential to the body. So in other words, it's great to eat healthy, but we must also get sufficient rest. So what I try to do is if I have a few late nights, I work very hard to not make that every night. So there's 7 days in a week. You stay up late a few nights, maybe 3 nights, at least for 4 or so nights. We should try to get into bed at a certain time because that also helps significantly with our rest issues. And we had someone on one of our previous presentations who spoke on sleep, and we will come back to visit that topic specifically. But sleep is very essential to optimal health. We wake up feeling more refreshed. We feel more energized, we feel more active, like we can do things, and it is very helpful to brain activity. So that is one of the things that we want to remember about the brain. Some other non-food activities that could help the brain is reading. Now, bear in mind, I know we all watch TV. Many people like to sit. Some people watch too much television. It is not healthy for a number of reasons. But please bear in mind, it does not help brain activity to just sit and watch hours and hours and hours of television. It actually is very detrimental to the brain. To get more brain activity, because that's what you want. You want the brain to be working. You want to read, like read a good book, read a nice book, a book that you enjoy, something motivational, inspirational, something that somewhat stimulates the brain. So lay down with a good book and just read. So life is very busy for me, but ever so often I do make time so I could read something because it's helpful for many reasons, but also very helpful to the brain. So that's another non-food activity. So just read a book, just for the purpose of reading, just read a book. Very helpful to the brain. Another non-food brain activity is crossword puzzles, because it challenges you to think and to look and to be creative in putting things together. And that is used a lot in Alzheimer's and dementia patients. So crossword puzzles, you can get those in even a dollar store. Invest in a few of those, especially now in the season where people are just at home and bored and don't know what to do with themselves. Invest in a few crossword puzzle books, turn off the TV, and just sit down and just work on at least a few puzzles a day. That would be very helpful to the brain. Also, exercise and workout. Now, my preferred form of workout is walking. I love to walk. I could walk a lot. I'm not into the other things, but they are good for you. Okay, if you're into that, great. If you like to lift weights and do all the other squatting and things, those are great things. They help different parts of the body. For me, my preferred method of working out and exercise is getting a good, nice, long walk. And that's great because it helps with, circulation, which takes oxygen to the brain, which keeps it, active and going. So whatever form of exercise works better for you, implement it in your diet, just like you would food, right? And you can do that again. There's 7 days in a week. If you can even just get this regimens in at least 4 days, and you can work out a schedule that works for you. Some people can do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Some people could do Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. You do what works best for you. But at least you would have known out of 7 days a week, you were deliberate in taking care of your brain. So the foods that we are looking at today are foods that are rich in lycopene, in antioxidants, because all of those are very helpful to being able to feed the brain and to get rid of negative stress causing activity in the brain, things that cause people to have their memory affected, things that cause them to be forgetful. So once the brain is being fed with the right kind of nutrients and vitamins, the activity of the brain will be at a good level. You will function at better ways. You'll be sharper. And like I said, and it happens to us as we get older. Like I was much, much sharper in my earlier years. I definitely have seen areas where I am a bit more forgetful than before, but I've also gotten older. I just had another birthday. It happens. However, there are ways that we can work with that. There are ways we can combat that. So one of the things that I am very deliberate about doing as I get older is to be more intentional about taking care of the brain, because that is one of the areas that begins to show that we are definitely moving into our upper years. So I try to, some of the things that I'm doing here today are things that I am more intentional about implementing because they are so useful to the health. So again, now that you've had that background, which we usually do, we give you the backdrop of the organ or the part of the body that we're talking about. And now we're going to go into the various recipes on how we can feed that particular area. And today we are looking at the brain. Now, I've told you this before, Thursday has become my favorite day of the week. Why? Because once this presentation has ended, guess what I get to do? Yes, enjoy all of this. So what a great day. Thursday is a great day. So I want you now, when you have taken the information that you have gotten from the presentations, why don't you implement some of those recipes on the following day and then make that day your favorite day of the week? I think that's a good idea. You can think about that. So the first thing that we are going to look at today, we're going to look at how you can use broccoli, which is a very, very fascinating and excellent food, even though it's, a vegetable. And many people, again, it's just a bland kind of food. There's nothing really to it. And without a bit of dress up, without a bit of, being creative, it's something you probably would not likely want to go out and get on your plate if you're not into the whole health thing, right? So whether you're into the health thing or not, we want to make those foods friends of yours. So we're going to look at first how you can turn broccoli into a more enjoyable option. And what I have here today, and I like to show you the options, I have broccoli. This is broccoli. Isn't that something? This is broccoli rice. Now I'm going to grab my spoon and I'm going to show you how, interesting this is. So you get your broccoli stock, organic, okay? You get that, you take it home, you wash it nicely. And when you do, You break up the stalks, the leaves, and you put it in the blender. And you simply blend to the point where it is broken up into, you don't want it to be like a powder, okay? So you have to check the blender. Don't just blend and blend and blend, because you're not looking for powder, you're looking for something that is grainy, so it pretty much is made into rice. So it looks like if you had cooked a bowl of rice. So right here, what I have here today is broccoli rice. So ordinarily, if I had just taken a stalk of broccoli and broke it up and put it on your plate, you would probably look at it like, oh, brother. But right here, you've just made it a more exotic option, right? And I cooked this with a bit of butter, a healthy version of the butter, that is one that is not loaded with all the saturated fat and cholesterol, because you're not trying to clog your arteries either, because you want to have good heart health. And you basically just look, nicely blended, not in a powder, but in a grainy option. And here I have a huge bowl of broccoli. You put that on the stove top in a pan with a bit of butter, a little olive oil. I do not cook with salt. I would probably use it in something else, but I generally do not cook with salt. In other words, I wouldn't put salt in things I'm cooking. I may use it in a salad, but that's about it. So there you have your broccoli rice. So once again, to get your broccoli rice, you take your broccoli stalk, you wash it very clean and nice. It's better to get the organic option and version. You take it home, you drop it in the blender, and you blend until it looks grainy like rice. You are not making a powder, because this is broccoli rice. And right there, something that was before just not too appealing or attractive, you've turned it into something different, okay? So this is our first recipe option. And once again, broccoli has significant impact on brain health. It assists with many things relating to the health of the brain, and keeping the brain, feeding the brain so that it remains at its optimal health. So broccoli is one of your food options if you are feeding the brain. When you are eating for the brain, you want to, and broccoli is good for a wide range of other things. But today we're talking about the brain, so we're going to focus on that. Another food that is very, very, very essential to the brain is black-eyed peas. And right here today, I have chosen so right here, you have some black-eyed peas, and I was able to serve this. Now, ordinarily, all you would have, and I want to show you something, by the way. You will see here that I have black-eyed peas in the can. And the reason why I have this, I'm not saying it's the best option, because it's always better when you can cook your own food and not have to use things out of a can, because obviously those have shelf lives. They're sitting there for a long time. They are filled with preservatives in order to keep them, from being bad. That obviously has adverse effects on the body. However, I also know that life is very busy, and not everybody has the time to take a pack of peas, put it on the stove, and wait 30 minutes to an hour for it to cook. If you are going, and this is why I am showing you this option, if you are going to use the black-eyed peas option in the can, the healthiest way to treat this, when you open the can, you put this in a colander or in a strainer, and you wash off all the liquid from this. Do not take the liquid and cook with it, because once again, this has shelf life. It's been sitting there for a long time. All these things are stuck in it. So you wash out all of that stuff, because it has negative impact on the gut, on the stomach, and it can cause other, irritations. So the healthiest thing to do, if you're going to use it in the can, take it home, open it up, wash it, put it in a colander, let it run in the water until all of that stuff is rinsed out. Then you prepare it, okay? So that's the best way to use your canned items, the healthiest way. Now, black eyed peas, which is a very powerful and essential food for the brain and maintaining brain activity and keeping it at a memory height. I prepared this with tomato and kale, and in a moment we'll understand better why. And that's because those two are also very powerful and essential brain food. So this has been prepared with kale. So in a pot, you put some olive oil. I have onions in here because onions is anti-inflammatory. I have garlic in here that is anti-inflammatory. Notice the choices I'm using. So I didn't just put anything in it. I put things that I know will help the brain. Why are those anti-inflammatory foods important? Because a lot of issues relating to memory loss also has to do with inflammation on the brain. So with those things added to the black eyed peas, the kale, and the tomatoes, which we're about to talk about in a minute, which are all very powerful and great options for the brain, you're not just cooking, you're cooking for the brain, okay? And so if you notice, it's, like I said, it's sauteed with all this anti-inflammatory seasonings, raw seasonings, onion, garlic, and then there's the kale, there's the tomato, a little olive oil sauteed in a pot, and it creates almost like a nice cream. Then you drop the peas in, and there you have your peas option. So you have broccoli rice, and now you have your peas option. So you see how a lunch is already coming together for you. So there we have this option. Also, I told you about the tomatoes. Right here also, this is sliced tomatoes. So tomato, again, another very, very powerful and essential food to helping memory and helping the brain and its activity and its function and keeping it from having to build up negative stresses on the brain. And this particular option here is sliced tomatoes served with vegan, you can serve that with vegan cheese, okay? And that again is to take what was just a regular tomato, okay, just a regular tomato, and rather than just cutting it and going like, wow, I really wish I didn't have to eat this. Now you really want to eat this. So once again, you sliced the tomatoes thin in circular form. You cut up some little vegan cheese, you put over it, and you can serve that with your favorite sauce, teriyaki. I prefer something brown, over it. So you can serve that with your favorite sauce, like a teriyaki sauce or maybe a Thai sauce. Something light, more smooth, and you just put it over. And there you created a tomato delicacy that was just regular, and now you've turned it into a delicious option. So here's your, now I want you to pay attention to something. If you look here, you will see that these tomatoes, they look like they're on a branch. And that is because it is a better option to choose your tomatoes on the vines. Okay, those are healthier options. So when you get your tomatoes in the store, it is best to get the tomatoes on the vine. They are a healthier option, vine tomatoes. Okay, so whether you got the large ones right here, okay, whether you got the large ones or you got the small ones, today I used both in the black eyed peas recipe. Your best option, again, best option are the vine tomatoes. They are a healthier option, okay? So you want to remember that when you are choosing your tomatoes for your brain food. So that pretty much takes care of a lunch version of feeding the brain. So you have just seen some options that you can implement when feeding the brain at lunchtime. We have the broccoli rice, we have the black eyed peas served with tomatoes and garlic and onion, served into a nice, rich, sauteed sauce. dropped in, and then you can serve that with your broccoli rice. And you even have, as a side option, you have tomatoes sliced with a bit of vegan cheese cut up all over, and then you can dice that, drench that with a bit of your favorite sauce, preferably a teriyaki sauce would be fine, or if you have another sauce option that you would like. And of course, you've learned how to use your peas if it is in a can. I want to also just show you some breakfast options because, of course, um, that is something that we want to feed the brain in the morning, and we want to be able to give it something in the afternoon. So for lunch, I've already showed you what you can do, and now I just want to show you for breakfast. You can create a bowl of oatmeal, okay, and you can take your oatmeal, allow it to boil a bit, and then once you do that, you can drop it in the blender, and you can put about a quarter cup of raisin in the oatmeal. Now, usually when people make their oatmeal, and that's how we generally eat it, that's how I also generally eat it. But once again, many people are not into hot cereals, right? They're more into the bucked cereal. However, the hot cereals, they do have a healthier option, okay? And so for the purpose of now feeding the brain, you can create a bowl of oatmeal. Now, black currants or black raisins are very powerful to brain health and memory. So rather than just take this and just drop it on the oatmeal, what you can do to create a more enjoyable breakfast is you can allow the oatmeal to boil for just a couple minutes, then transfer it over to the blender and add about a quarter cup of raisins and blend it in before returning it to the rest of the oatmeal, and just mixing everything in and making a very nice porridge, right? So that could be a morning option. And then once you have made and created your oatmeal, a powerful form of brain food is also the flax seed. Now, the flaxseed in its natural form, this is raw. This is organic raw flaxseed. You can get them also in bags. They don't always come in a container. You can get it in a bag. So the flaxseed here, which also has powerful effects on the stomach, but we're not talking about the stomach today. We're talking about the brain. It is very, very, very great for memory and for brain health. So what you do is, because these are like little grains, okay, they're like little grains, to make it more enjoyable, you could put this in a grinder or in the blender along with some sunflower seeds and some pumpkin seeds together. And what you do is, and I have some of that here, you also, once you've put it in the blender, you grind everything together. So this is a combination of those things that I told you. Let me just, and once you do that, you could just spread a bit over your oatmeal. And right there, you would have fed your brain a very nice breakfast. So not only is it enjoyable because you're going to have the taste of the black currant, and the black currant is the raisin, and that is very essential to the health of the brain. So you mix that into the oatmeal, you create like a nice sweet, kind of like a, a creamy kind of effect. Then you mix it back with the remaining of the oatmeal. You create that cereal option, and then you use the grinded sunflower, pumpkin seed, and flax seed, and you just put it in a powder over the cereal, and that in itself just takes the brain to a whole other level. Now, I know that you are you can also, by the way, for the brain, you only want to use brown. Now, this may look light on the screen, but this is actually brown basmati rice. And for the brain, brown choices are much healthier, brown or dark, like carob chocolate, right? Just like the dark currants and the brown bread and the brown rice. So even though it might look because the lights are on it, but this is actually brown rice. So if you're going to serve a rice for your brain food on a particular day, you want to make your choice the brown rice option. Okay, so that's another thing you want to remember for lunch or for dinner time. Now, many people are not very excited about nuts or grains, but nuts and grains are very essential to brain food. So you want to always have a combination of those on the days that you are feeding the brain. Because like I said, I know that those things, for some people, if that's your everyday life, then it's not a problem. If you are just becoming acquainted with all of these things, it can seem like a bit much. So to make it easier and a gradual transition, you can do that a few days a week. And again, I keep reminding you, there are 7 days. If you could devote at least 3 or 4 days to just taking care of your health, your body and you would be very happy. So generally, many people will not just sit. Like I snack on nuts. If I want to snack, my snack are usually nuts, an apple, a banana. I know I'm probably, but that's how I snack. My snacks are fruits, right? But if your snacks are not fruits and or other healthy options, and you really want to get something healthy into the body, you can try the nuts and the grains because some of them, they do have flavor. And again, I showed you in a previous presentation how to use your nuts in salads. So that way it doesn't seem like you're just sitting there eating a nut and going, wow, I really, really would rather not do this, but I know it's good for me. So when you make your salads, you can just take a handful of nuts, drop it in there, add your homemade dressing, which we've covered, and that way you have a great option. Now we're going to talk about the dessert option of brain food, because once again, if you're going to feed the brain on a particular day, you have to be consistent. You want to have brain food in the morning, you can get your lunch, feed in the brain, and if you're going to eat something after because you're so desiring of a dessert, because we like desserts, I do, then you can definitely choose a healthy option. And one of those very great healthy foods for the brain that is a fruit option is berries. But then I want you to enjoy your berries. So I'm not going to just tell you, oh, grab a few berries. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to show you how to enjoy your berries. So we're going to right now look at a combination of dark fruits, and check this out. Isn't that incredible? Well, think about how that tastes. When I scooped that out of the thing today, it was something else. So here's what I've done with this dessert option. What is here is a combination of dark berries. There's blueberries, there's some cherries, there's some blackberries. This is a combination of berries, which are powerful in antioxidant. And because it is so powerful in that, it is very helpful to demolishing the negative stress matters on the brain. So you are able to get the brain healthy because it's battling and combating those negative stress effects. So there, what I was able to do with this, I usually get the frozen fruits. Now I get live fruits. I do have real fruits because I just showed you some. But again, if you feel that that is a lot of work and it is just too much for you, get the bag of the combined frozen fruits. I usually get the organic version again, and they do have the organic version, and it tends to say antioxidant blend. You get that combination. When you take it home, you put it on the stove top in a pan, and you do not add anything. You simply use, and you want that to be somewhat melted. Usually when you buy it, it is frozen. When I am going to do this, I usually leave it out in the fridge. I take it out of the freezer and I leave it in the fridge. So I have the juice because it's now melted, it's defrosted. I put it on the stovetop and I put the berries in there and I pour the juice from the bag into the pot and I allow it to boil. And I credit my bestie, Juliet, because she was very essential in helping with this recipe years ago. And put it on the stove top. You pour the juice in and you put it on a low heat, but strong enough to get it boiling a bit. And it boils until it turns into a syrup. Okay, so I let it boil until it almost has that droopy kind of syrup. It looks like honey or maple syrup. So it has its own syrup. And then I added a little cinnamon. Yeah, I added some cinnamon to the top. So now when you scoop it out, you have that nice jelly combination of berries, and you have that nice juice that comes with it that is in a nice syrup. And then you just add a bit of cinnamon to the top. You can mix it in or you can just let it sit. Cinnamon is also very powerful for circulatory issues. So that also assists with circulation in the brain. And that way right there, you actually have a dessert. You can't say eating for the brain is not fun. And since we all like to drink, although we should not eat and drink, it does mess up our digestive system. It is not a healthy practice. We've all done it. We still do it occasionally, but we should not. And it also contributes to us having a pouch in the tummy area because it's messing up the digestive juices and its flow. So if you're going to eat, eat first and drink 30 minutes to an hour later, or eat drink first 30 minutes to an hour before, and then you have your food. Give them time to do their separate things in the body. But since we're going to drink anyway, why not drink some brain food? So in here is a combination of the same berries that I just showed you, and that is mixed with some kale, because a combination of kale and black berries or blueberries, the darker berry options, is very powerful in reversing brain issues that are unhealthy. It helps with all the clogging that is going on, and over time that does a great repair to the brain, helps with memory loss, and keep the brain healthy and active. So in here is a combination of berries, the darker berries, and a handful of kale. And you blend those together, and that should be your drink on the days that you are feeding the brain. And so there you have it. Today we covered how you can feed your brain using very, creative options that ordinarily would not be so creative. And we talked about making broccoli rice, which you take your broccoli florets, you blend it, and then you turn it into a grainy, not a powdered option. So that way you can enjoy. And as I love to do, I am going to now just create our plate so you can, see how it will look once you have put it together. So why don't we create our, so here I am getting my broccoli rice. That looks real good. And you already know what I'm going to be doing, right? That very plate is going to be supper. So there we have it. Just I do not like a lot of food on my plate. I like to take little portions at a time and come back a few times. So yeah, I think when your plate is not too full, it helps you with eating better and processing better. So there we have some of that. I'm going to have some of my tomato with that cheese option. And again, vegan cheese is a better option. So as you can see, they're round. And because this is a vegetable as well, you can just put it on the same plate, that is fine. And I'm going to put a little bit of that sauce right here. That is already looking really exciting. And of course, don't forget, don't forget the brown rice. Okay, so I'm gonna put a little bit of that right here. And it's always good to have a plate option where you have different things on it, right? Now, there we go. We have a little rice. That's already looking good, right? And guess what we have? And this is pretty much like having a meat option. I'm adding here my beans, okay? And this, is rich in protein as well. So you have a meat option. And I just want to show you my plate. Isn't that cool? See, that's why I love this. Right, look, there you have it. You have a colorful plate and you're home, you want to feed your brain, and you just created a meal to get the brain fed. Awesome. And then once you have done that, of course, you're going to have your drink at the right time. Let's not forget dessert. Okay, I love desserts. I really, really do. So since I can't have them anywhere these days, you create them at home, right? You see how great that looks? That's very tasty, very tasty. So there you have it, my friends. You just created for yourself a really great meal option. You have fed the brain, you have given the brain a good breakfast, you give the brain a good lunch, and you even give the brain a good dessert. We know you probably won't do that every day, but if you could do that a few days a week, that would be awesome. Okay. Think better, sharper, you remember more clearly. Things make a bit more sense. The fog on the brain is gone. You destroy those negative stresses that threaten the brain. These oxidative stresses, you are able to relieve that, and you feel sharper, you feel more energized, you feel more healthy, you feel more like yourself. And for our spiritual implication, because we always remind you here, we don't just want to take care of ourselves physically, we want to take care of ourselves spiritually, because we're not merely physical beings. We are physical beings who are housing a spirit. So we are also spiritual beings. So we can't just take care of ourselves physically and neglect our spiritual self, because we're a combination of mind, body, and spirit, right? So for the spiritual implication, we talked about the mind today. And what I want to share with you is, let the mind be in you, which was also in the man Christ Jesus. And what mind was in Christ Jesus? Well, he was very alert, he was very sharp, he was extremely wise beyond his years, even as a child. He was very in tune with who he was as a person. He took excellent care of himself. His identity in God was very stable. He did not have any ambiguity about who he was as a human being. He was about God's business. He made that his first and top priority. And guess what? Because his mind was about God's business, God took care of his business. And guess what? When you and I put God first, when we make him our top priority, when we make him our business, then he takes care of all our business. And that is a fact. You give him all of you, and you get all of him. That's how it works. And it really works. So I want to remind you today, don't just feed the mind and just focus about having a mind that is sharp so you could do things in the world that you like and enjoy. but also feed the mind because you want to have the mind of Christ. And I shared with you what kind of mind that was. And once your mind is about God's business, then God will be about your business. Well, I enjoy doing this with you, and I really hope and pray that you have enjoyed the recipe options today, that you learned more about the need to feed your brain and to care for your brain. And I look forward to seeing you the next time on Faith and Healing. God bless you.